Good morning. This week in maths, we're going to continue with our work on lines and angles. Here is today's fluency task. So it's a fluent in 5. Give yourself 5 minutes and then unpause the video for your answers. Okay, here are your answers for today. Right, okay, so continuing with our line and angle work, this week we're going to start by looking at different types of lines. And we're going to start, it's recap, but it's quite important that we really make sure we understand what these words mean. So we're going to start today by looking at perpendicular lines. So perpendicular lines, you can of course use a protractor to measure an angle, but perpendicular lines can help you because perpendicular lines need a right angle. And a very easy way to make yourself a right angle is take a piece of paper. It doesn't have to be a neat square or anything like that. So if you fold it and fold it again, you will end up with a right angle. Okay, you could measure that with a protractor and check that it was 90 degrees. Obviously your folding does have to be neat. Okay, so you could use a folded piece of paper to show you a right angle. You could also use a ruler. Mine isn't very helpful because it's got curved edges, but if you've got a straight ruler, that can be helpful as well to help you identify a right angle. So perpendicular lines are where two lines meet to make a right angle. Okay, so here are some examples here, and they're everywhere. Okay, if you're thinking about the corner of these pieces of paper, the corners of a display board, the corners of a book, perpendicular lines are everywhere. Okay, right, so let's move on then. Here's an example of what a perpendicular line might be and what it isn't. So you can have a look. These lines here, this line and this line, are perpendicular to each other. They meet to make a right angle. These two lines, 1 and 2, they do meet and they make an angle, but that angle is not a right angle. We can test it by just popping our right angle inside, saying, actually, no, that's not the same. That's an acute angle. That is not, so those lines are not perpendicular to each other. Okay? So number 4, we've got some lines here. You can see now why it was important to make sure we're labelling the lines correctly. The line AB and the line CD cross, they intersect each other, and where they cross there is a right angle. That means that AB is perpendicular to CD, and we can use a symbol for perpendicular that's like a little upside down capital T. I'm just going to remind you now that when I say line AB, if you've called it BA, particularly when you come and look at answers, that's fine as well. That's the same thing, okay? Let's have a look at number 5. Is CD perpendicular to EF? If you just imagine yourself saying is perpendicular to, if you see that symbol, then that will help you. These two lines do meet, but where they meet, there is not a right angle. There's either an obtuse angle there or an acute angle there. So those lines are not perpendicular. So how do we check? Well, we could use the folded paper. As I said, that could just be a scrap piece of paper somewhere. If we put it against the two lines, we can see that that fits perfectly. One line is going around each edge of my folds. Okay, make sure it is the folded bit that you're putting into the corner. Okay, or you could use a ruler. Now, even though my ruler's got a little curve in the corner, I can still sit it and it can still show me that, oops, one edge, oh, my stand's in the way, one edge lines up with the long side of my ruler and the other one is the short side. So that can tell you as well. So you don't need a protractor or anything more complicated than that to tell you whether lines are perpendicular. Okay, if the lines meet at a right angle, they are perpendicular to each other, and we can write it using this symbol. Okay, let's have a look at some then. So what I'd like you to do is pause the screen, decide whether you think these are perpendicular to each other, and then unpause where I will talk through what the answers are. Right, A, is GH perpendicular to HI? Well, here's the angle that's made. I don't know if it's a right angle yet, so I'm going to draw it as a curve, and then I'm going to use my folded paper. Yeah, that lines up exactly, so that is correct. B, is PQ perpendicular to QR? Well, there's the angle. If I put my corner in this time, I'll line up the edge and you can see this line, this edge is not where that line is. So no, those lines are not perpendicular. Is ST perpendicular to TU? Oops. Yes, they meet to make a right angle. And is XY perpendicular to YZ? No. Very nearly, but you can see you've got to be very accurate with lining up your corner. That's not quite where that line is. We might talk about in a minute, you'll see in a minute why it's not. Okay? If you didn't have a copy of this, of course, it might have been a bit difficult for you to see by eye, but you might have been able to see it anyway. Okay, let's have a look. Which line in this diagram is perpendicular to the line AB? So we're looking for a right angle. Pause, have a go, and then unpause for the answer. Okay, so hopefully you got your folded piece of paper or your ruler and you tried out all of the angles. Oh, and you found, hopefully, that it's this line which is perpendicular. So EF is perpendicular to AB. I'm just going to remind you that you can write it like